Hey everyone, this is Tanya Rod from Gemrock Stone. I'm just going to give a very short read through, um, just reading a couple of chapters in John today, or I listened to them as I was driving, and it was very interesting. What kind of what kind of popped out when I read it. So just want to share that. The first chapter of John is kind of interrogated. He's being interrogated by folks from the priests, like from the Pharisees, came over and they want to know who he is. Like, who are you, John? What are you doing? And they're quite not sure. And so it says, beginning in verse 19. And this is the testimony of John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, who are you? He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, I'm not the Christ. And they asked him, what then? Are you Elijah? And he said, I'm not. Are you the prophet? And he said, no. And they asked him, well, who are you? We need to give an answer to those who sent us. What do you say about yourself? And he said, I am the voice of one crying out in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord, as the prophet Isaiah said. Now then, they had been sent by the Pharisees, right? And they asked him, then why are you baptizing, if you're neither the Christ, nor Elijah, nor the prophet? And John answered, I baptize with water, but among you stands one you do not know, even he who comes after me, the strap of whose sandal I am not worthy to untie. Yesterday, my neighbor had his grandchildren visiting, and I had been out and I came running home because I had to take this guy behind me right there outside because it had been a few hours I had been out, so I knew that he wanted to go outside and do what dogs do. And so I came rushing in, I rushed out, and I was following him around because I didn't want to like put a leash on him. So I just kind of stayed behind him just to make sure because he's old, he can't really see much and teeth, So I want him to be free, but I want to be there making sure that he's okay. So I was following him, and then I noticed that the kids were playing and they were like, oh my God, it's a puppy, a puppy. And Ronnie's like 15, he's not a puppy, but whatever. And because he's small, right? And so the kids are like, oh, puppy, So, and the neighbor knows that Armani is, he's an old dude. And so the kids were like, oh yeah, they were, trying to get near him, etc. And so when I was ready to go back inside the apartment, my neighbor's Jewish, right? But because the kids, and they were playing outside, I said, oh, well, Merry Christmas, And then one of the kids, he said, actually, we celebrate Hanukkah. And I thought that was so cute because actually I celebrate Hanukkah too. But anyway, and I looked at my neighbor and I said, he's not confused. He knows exactly who he is. And my neighbor just smiled at me, and so John was not confused. He knew who he was. He was not the Christ. He was not Elijah. He was not a prophet. And he was very clear that he was none of those things. But what he said was that he was that voice in the desert. And I have to read it because it's just so beautiful. He said, I am the voice of one crying out in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord, as the prophet Isaiah had said. And if you go back into the book of Isaiah, or you can Google it because I can't even refer you to it right now, but you will see a reference to that, where the prophet says there will be one, and he describes one crying out in the desert. He's going to be eating locusts. He's going to be dressed, weird, and he's going to precede the Messiah, right? When this guy comes to the scene, when he comes on the scene, then we know the Messiah is at hand. And I just love the fact that John knew who he was. Like he was clear. Like they were still tricking him, and he wasn't interested in being anybody else but himself. Like he knew what his calling was. He knew who he was. He knew what he was here to do, and he wasn't confused about it. And he wasn't shamed by it either. Like I don't need to be anybody else. I don't need to be a prophet. I don't need. No, I'm not Elijah. I'm not the Messiah. I am the voice in the wilderness. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Anyway, Jem Rockstone. Talk to you soon.